Nigel Foote coming to you from Canberra, the capital of Australia. I'm here to interview Kerry. Hi Kerry.
Hi Nigel, nice to
meet you. I'm here doing this interview for Cecilia Abraham from Delhi in India. Cecilia and I are working on a project, co-producing a project, which is a photo exhibition about Hyderabad, Secunderabad, and predominantly focused on the Anglo-Indian community there. So a little bit of a history, but also we'll touch on the present and the future for where the community is heading over there. So Kerry is going to tell us about his ancestry, about Hyderabad, his time there, and what he's been doing. So Kerry, if we can start with a bit of a background on yourself first, and then if we lead into your ancestry.
Sure. I was born in Hyderabad, as Nigel said, in the mid-50s. I was brought up in a middle-class Anglo-Indian family. My mother was a headmistress, teacher. Most of my family were educators. My dad worked in the road transport for many years. And I was educated there till I was about 16, 17 years old. Then I left and migrated out to Australia.
And was that the whole family that came?
No, I came out here sponsored by my brother, who was in Sydney. My mum was very reluctant to come out, so it was just me coming out to stay with my brother initially.
And how was that? Were you excited? It must have been
I was very
a real
excited.
bag of different emotions.
Yes, I was very excited as a young boy heading out to Australia. It was a dream of mine. So yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit then about the earliest ancestor that you have some information about.
Yeah, on my paternal side, my great grandfather was John Edwards. He came out with the 80th Foot Regiment, the Staffordshire Volunteers.
From England, I'm
From
assuming.
England. They went to South Africa and they fought the Dutch there. Then they came across from South Africa to Madras around about 1800. From there, the regiment went to Trincomalee in Ceylon.
So they even went to Ceylon.
Yeah, spent a couple of years there.
Right.
And
was that, again, it was a military expedition?
It was a military expedition. Then they were given orders to move to the west coast of India. So they went to what is now Kerala. They went to Quailon, and they had their posts at Canano as well as Tellicherry.
Canano, yes.
Yeah, so that's where John Edwards, spent about 17 years of his life. He was a lieutenant and then he rose to become a lieutenant colonel.
Right.
Sadly, he died in Madras at a young age at the age of 40. But he had 7 children there on the west coast, and slowly they migrated from the west coast to Madras and Bangalore and eventually to Hyderabad.
Yeah. So who did he marry?
He married, I think, a native lady. We don't know the full background towards it, but I think she was of Malayali extract from that area.
So Malayali, that's the indigenous people.
That's the indigenous Kerala people.
Right.
So I presume that's who she was. I don't honestly know, but with the name, looking at the document, the will, her name is in it as native woman.
Right.
Mudavali Kopachi, and that's as much as I know about her, because there's no marriage record.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. And were they Roman Catholic or?
No, they were Anglican, the Church of England,
right.
As far as I know. And he had 7 children in that area. One of them, my great-grandfather, George Edwards. George married Julia Brown. Now, Julia Brown was a relative or a step-niece to Murdoch Brown, who was a merchant with the East India Company. Quite an infamous guy.
East India Company.
Yeah, and he caused a lot of problems there, I think, old Murdoch.
Right.
But Julia and George eventually moved to Madras. And George was working as a Malayali translator in the civil and military courts in Madras.
Right, right.
And then they had about 7 or 8 kids. one of them, my great-grandfather, was John William Edwards.
Mm.
He was a teacher and he taught in Bangalore as well as in Madras, in Dupton College.
Oh, the famous Dupton.
Yes.
Which is still there today, still expanding that school. I've met the owner, the principal of the Dupton College School.
And then he moved from there to Hyderabad around about the 1860s.
Mm. Any idea why that move took place? For work, or?
I would say for work, but presumably because the Nizam government was quite fluid as far as employing people, and there was a lot of opportunity there.
Right. So the Nizam is like a king?
The Nizam was basically the ruler, the princely ruler of Hyderabad state.
Right.
So that was his title, and there were many Nizam. There were 7 in all.
Right. But we're talking about a very powerful man.
Yes,
very wealthy,
very rich man, very wealthy man. And it was a wonderful state in those days where there were no taxes for people, and they just enjoyed life.
That's
it
great.
was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But you had to actually meet the Nizam once a year and offer a tribute.
Right.
And that tribute was often a gold coin. And that gold coin had to be actually presented personally by the head of the family.
Right.
And you would go up to them and you would give the Nizam this tribute. It was basically a gold ashrafi, which was the coinage of the Nizam. And that was part of your tribute to living in the state. And
so, Kerry, would they, the term Anglo-Indian wasn't coined till much later, but how do you think they would have termed themselves? What would they have called themselves as far as a community, or not really even a nationality or a race, but
it was I'm not absolutely sure, but I think to some degree that was coming in sort of in the early 1900s. If you take an example of my family, who were educators, there was a society there. It was called the Anglo-Indian, Anglican and European, Domicile European Community of Chhattisgarh.
Right.
Now it was a collection of people, Anglicans, that predominantly belonged to St. George's Church, Hyderabad, and St. John's Church, Secunderabad, who were part of this community.
Right.
And they were there to actually uphold and see to the upbringing of all the community members.
Right.
And to do this, they did things like, all sorts of community works. They were, as I said, teachers, joined the telegraphs, all this sort of thing. And these people were that particular strata of Anglo-Indians that basically mixed also with a lot of Europeans. That's why it was called Anglican, Anglo-Indian and Domicile European Community of Chhattisgarh.
Okay. So it was definitely segregated from the wider Indian community.
Yes, it definitely was. And in respect of St. George's particularly, which my family was involved in, as I said, a lot of them were teachers. The schools were run by Anglo-Indians. It was a private school on the Church of England background. They then brought in the Australian missionaries there.
Oh.
So the Church Missionary Society, the Australian Church Missionary Society, came to Hyderabad about 1918.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And administered the schools.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, if we looked at Hyderabad as part of India, was it a very vibrant place to be back then? Were people who were there were doing quite well? Was it a bit of a centre for these Anglo-Indian people, the British Indians, those sorts of things?
Yes, I think so. Because it was such a progressive state.
Right.
The Nizam had his own railway.
Right. Yep.
He had his own, basically all the functions that were being done, the administrative functions, telegraphs, customs, the whole lot that he had, and employment was so easy to come by, that people just flocked there.
Right.
And in the Anglo-Indian circles, I think it would have been a wonderful place to be in. My parents used to say to me they had such great times with things like dances and mixing with other cultures, especially the British, the cantonment area in Secunderabad.
Right. So the cantonment, that's where the military
That's correct.
gathered and stayed. Lived.
So it was quite a multicultural thing. There was British, there was Anglo-Indian, there was Indian. So it was a wonderful place to live in and to progressively grow up in.
Yeah, and as you said, education was at a very high level there.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So, Kerry, if you could tell me a little bit about your maternal side family.
Yes, my maternal side is rather strange, but I'm still trying to research it. I think the old man that came out from what is now South Poland, which was then Prussia, his name was Joseph Henry Luschwitz. And he was a bandmaster in Poland, and he came out, what is now Poland. He came out and joined the 2nd Baluchi Regiment in Karachi, and he was a bandmaster there.
And of course, Karachi was part of India then.
That's right.
It only became part of Pakistan after
That's correct.
partition.
And he married a lady there who was the daughter of another bandmaster of another regiment. And I sort of tracked him, and then he went to Kanpur and Lucknow in that area, and joined another regiment, and he served there for a little while. And then he came from there to Hyderabad and obviously joined the Nizam's troops, where he was a bandmaster in the Nizam's troops. So this is how Luschwitz came to India. I don't know what attracted him there, but I do know that he was there and attracted him through marriage and birth records of his children. And he stayed in Hyderabad, and his wife, who was Mary Elizabeth Moore, eventually passed away. And they had about 7 or 8 children. And then he married another lady whose name was Laura Sophia Maybury, who became my great-grandmother. So there's sort of a split in the family as far as step siblings.
So do you think they were pure European, those ladies, or were they maybe Anglo-Indian or Eurasian?
I think they were Anglo-Indians, particularly the Maybury family. They were quite dark. And the funny part of it was that when he had 4 children, 2 of the daughters, actually, one married a Cecil Gay, and that's my mother's maiden name, and the other one married Frank Edwards, who was my father's father, my grandfather. So my mum and dad being first cousins. So it's a funny sort of a mix-up there, but there were 3 ladies and 1 boy in the family. And the guy, the chap the boy married Nora Finglas. Now Finglas was also a very famous family in Hyderabad, where her father was in the police, David Finglas. But his grandfather, Michael Finglas, came from Ireland, and he was a mercenary who actually fought for the Nizam
with his own army.
Yes.
Really.
So it's an interesting history.
Definitely.
What little I know of it.
And don't get on the bad side of that family.
No, they were pretty ruthless.
So it's very interesting to have all of this information, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
On your ancestors and this connection with Hyderabad. Do you feel that you've really gained something by knowing all of this information?
I think so. It really takes you back into the roots of where your family actually came from, and to track down all the little bits and pieces to say that You know, we're formed out of so many different cultures and
That's
so
very
many
true.
different, what you may say, communities.
It's a real melting pot.
It's a melting pot, and I'm very proud to be an Anglo-Indian, particularly from Hyderabad, and I'm very excited that Cecilia is doing this project with you.
That's great. Now, the other exciting thing is that you've got lots and lots of beautiful old photographs of your family.
I do, and I'm happy to share that. And I'd like to encourage anyone else who is from Hyderabad, Secunderabad, to do the same, because it's a culture and a unique culture from that state, which you shouldn't hide in trunks, and bring them out and actually display them and talk about them.
Yeah. Look, I can't stress enough what Kerry said. This project, which is a documentary project that Cecilia and I are putting together, it's very important for historic fact to have photographs to accompany things that people have, stories and that sort of thing, and it will really add another element to the exhibition. And when Indians come to see the exhibition, or non-Anglo-Indians, they'll really get a good idea, looking at the photographs, about the community, how we dressed, especially because we dressed differently. The community stood out, the hair, the culture, especially being Christian and Catholic, all of these things, we stood apart. So if you can contribute, that would be fantastic. So now you went back to Hyderabad recently, several years ago.
Yes, the last visit we made was in 2014, and I took my youngest son Daniel with me, and my niece came as well. And it was basically to show Dan what India is all about, show him Hyderabad, show him where we lived. And
so why did you feel that it was important for Dan to visit?
Well, two things. He was very keen to know the background and the culture that we come from. And secondly, he was interested in, because he's an artist in textiles, he was very keen to see what he could find in his, particularly in materials and architecture and ideas.
So how old was Dan when he made his first visit?
He was 31.
31.
Yes.
Yeah. And did you have a feeling of pride when you took him back and showed him?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was great to show him all the old haunts and where I grew up, my school, our church. Then we took him down to Bangalore, where he did his residency. He was doing a residency
Yeah, that's fantastic. Dan did a residency
for Melbourne Asia Link.
Yeah.
Then we went down to Wellington in the Nilgiris to show him where his mother was born. And we actually found the home of her great-grandfather, which is still standing.
Yeah, what a fantastic thing to do with his son.
Yeah, and it was absolutely amazing. We enjoyed every minute of it.
And so how many years between visits to Hyderabad for you?
I went in 2007-8, and it was in 2014, so normally about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, and what about Anglo-Indians in Hyderabad now? Are there many families?
There are still a lot of families around, I think. It's dwindled quite a bit because a lot of them have migrated. However, there are still Anglo-Indian families there, and I think they still keep the culture going. The dances, the music, the food, all that is still very prominent.
Yeah. And what about the future for the Anglo-Indians in that area? Do you see, do people see themselves slightly apart from the rest of India, or are they, Indians first, Anglo-Indians second?
I think it's a mixture of both, in respect of, the Anglo-Indians do still keep their culture and things, but they've mixed a lot more with the Indians, and I think the opportunities for young Anglo-Indians is far more, what shall I say, brighter for them now.
Right.
That they are more educated, they go into better fields of education, and they get better jobs.
And of course their English is first language, really, when they're growing up. So that's a great help for opportunities in different areas.